Today, let's walk through the steps of how to make this cute peeking cat block. Welcome, I do sewing and DIY related content, and today we are going to be making this really cute peeking cat block. So this is not my own design. This is actually comes from another blog, which I will be sure to list in the description. I had this listed on my Pinterest board for items to try in February, so we are going to be working on it. So the first step is we need to make half triangle squares, 5 of them using kind of 2 contrasting colors. So I'm going to be using a white and a red, and then for those squares you saw that I put the fabrics with right sides together, and then I'm just going to be sewing diagonally across so that I can get these really nice and clean little half square triangles. Now for this you could really do any size. The blog originally does have like they're 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. I made them smaller as I was going to be making a smaller block, but you could really go with whatever you want. Once you get those all sewn up, you're just going to be cutting off one side of wherever you did that seam so that you can get this nice triangle. Now you're going to want 9 white color fabrics as well as 2 darker color squares. So as you can see here, in total you'll have 9 white square blocks, 2 dark square blocks, and then 5 of those half triangles that we just created. Next, you're going to be matching with right sides together, starting to build out the block. So as you can see, I had it laid out for how it was going to be looking, and then I'm just going to be matching 2 by 2 for each of them so that I can start the process of actually building out this block. Now stuffing definitely wanted to help the entire time. As you can see, she was overseeing it all. So I just started to go through, match them up 2 by 2 so I could take a straight seam. I did a 1/4 inch seam allowance for this entire block, so it was very simple and quick to whip up and put together. I also, as you can see, was doing that chain stitching method, so I would just do all the blocks, and then once they were done, I would go through and cut them apart so that then I could start the next process. Now, after you make each of these like little pairs, you could definitely press all of these out. I opted to just wait until I had a full row completed of these squares. As you know, you see we're going to have those 4 squares per row. So I wanted to sew up those 4 rows first, and then I just did one big pressing for each of the rows. Next, it was time to completely put the rows together though, so matching up those 2 pairs that I did, I'm just going to go through and match them with right sides together and then take that last seam for each of those 4 rows. So a lot of this is very repetitive, very simple steps, all just using these squares that we cut out earlier. So now I'm just going to take those 4 seams so that'll be nice and quick to do. When I was taking these seams, as you see, I do backstitch a little bit at the beginning and the end just to make sure that that seam is nicely secured. So now that I have all the rows done, we would be sewing each of these together, but first I am going to be pressing them out. Now you could decide if you want to press your seams open or if you wanted to have your seams just all pressed one way. It really depends on how you feel your fabric is laying and what looks the less bulky for the type of fabric you are using. Once I had them all pressed though, it was then time to start matching them together. So the block is looking really cute. I love how it's turning out. So I am just going to be matching the 2 top rows and then the 2 bottom rows together with right sides together, and then taking that nice long seam all the way across. Once I do this, we will then be able to just sew these all together to have that one block. So very similar to before, I'm just taking a straight stitch with that 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then I match with right sides together those last 2 pieces that we have so that we could build out the entire block. So here is what it looks like. It's going to go perfect in my cat quilt. I thought that this was such a fun and simple little quilt to put together, especially for a fun block. I am going to press all of this out one more time, and then once that is done, it is complete. So you could add this to a quilt, you could have this, make this in a bigger size, or maybe make multiple and add them to a pillowcase. I found this was so simple and really fun to do. I'm going to be adding little buttons and doing some embroidery whiskers on it to really give it that final cat look. If you enjoyed this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next.